Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Friday, September 24th, 2021. And our top stories today: gas prices remain high and being aware of move over laws. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Andrew Gross with AAA. Andrew, always a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Good to be here, Jeffrey.
Yeah, we're going to talk about travel. We're going to talk about travel insurance. We're going to talk about move over laws in our second segment and protecting ourselves when we're on the road. But let's start out with gas prices. Hurricane Ida, lots of things going on that in this country in terms of climate and change that may have disrupted gas prices. What can you tell us? What do gas prices look like?
Well, gas prices have been pretty high this summer. They popped over $3 right around the time of that Colonial Pipeline hack in early May. And they stayed high because then there was a lot of demand. Vacations picked up, but the vast majority of vacations people took by car. And there are a lot of different reasons for that, but I'm sure COVID probably played a pretty big part in that. Maybe the parents were vaccinated, but the kids weren't. So they probably thought it might be a little easier risk of exposure just to go by car. Plus, there was also the issue with rental cars and the lack thereof. And if you even could find a rental car, it was really expensive. So more car vacations this summer. So that also kind of kept up demand, kept up the gasoline prices. Normally, we'd see that drop after Labor Day. Traditionally, gasoline prices almost always drop after Labor Day, but not this year. And you were right. That was really thanks to Hurricane Ida, who came steamrolling through, that Texas coast and Louisiana, and just impacted a lot of offshore oil production and caused enough flooding and damage that it knocked down the grid. So all of a sudden, you had all these refineries offline. So gradually, the refineries have come back online. And some of the offshore productions coming back. But then Nicholas came rolling through in almost the same area and then just slowed things down even more. So we're still at that point where prices should have been dipping, but they're not. And it's just because the supply kind of got tightened there for a while.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes a lot of sense. If you can't get oil out of the ground, out of the sea, wherever it comes from, and then you can't transport it to be refined, you're not going to have gasoline, because it is a very cumbersome process to take this oil out of the ground and to convert it to gasoline. Andrew, when you look, what are analysts telling you and the folks at AAA about, will we get back to some level of parity, equilibrium that we have seen in the past? Will it take a few more weeks? Will it take a few more months? What's the expectation that we should have, regardless of where we live in this country, during the fall?
That's a great question. And we think that gasoline prices will probably stay north of $3 for the rest of the year. But a lot of that will be impacted by the remainder of hurricane season. And, we're only now at about the midpoint of hurricane season. Hurricane season now goes till November 30th. And that's a long way off. That's after Thanksgiving. So we have a long way to go. And fingers crossed, we don't have any more storms come rolling through. But we've already had 17 named storms. And that could easily and will most likely go up. So we just have to really make hope and make sure that these storms don't come rolling through the same areas. Because I know Ida, at one point, shortly after Ida hit, Ida took out 77% of the offshore oil production. Now, a lot of that was able to come back online in a week afterwards, but you can see the kind of impact these storms can have when it comes to oil production.
Absolutely, and it just is a cascading effect, and it impacts people's pocketbooks if they're going on travel and going on vacation, if they're either choosing to fly or choosing to drive, or by the way, going back to the office if their offices are reopening. Andrew, let's talk a little bit about. I want to shift to just travel and maybe airplane, not airplane. Could be an airplane, but airplane travel. Are you seeing a tick up in that happening? People going away on vacation, or maybe business travel kind of picking up?
Well, we're looking right now, we're beginning to work on our Thanksgiving forecast, kind of our big holiday forecast. So that's being worked on now. The last forecast that we did was actually the 4th of July one. And that was kind of before the Delta variant really took hold. So at that time, everything was very optimistic, right? We projected 47 million people were going to be traveling, 44 million of them were going to go by car. Now we're seeing that things have gotten a little softer, particularly when it gets to air travel. And while this is something we don't track, you can read the stories. TSA and the airlines are saying, travel appears to be way down. Now that could be a lot of it could be timing because we are post Labor Day, and so vacation travel is down, and the slack is not being picked up by business travel, and it's also not being picked up by international travel. So if you're in the airline business, you're kind of in a tough spot right now.
Yeah, it is really tough. You got to buy fuel. Fuel is more expensive, but also you need travelers to fill those planes. And we all know what happened during the pandemic. Andrew, let's talk about insurance, travel insurance, because I know just talking with you offline that this type of insurance has really ticked up. And can you tell us a little bit more about what travel insurance is, how you purchase it, and why it would tick up?
Well, we've surveyed travelers, folks who plan to travel, and 55% of those that we talked to said that they are planning to take a trip longer than one night by the end of next year. And a lot of that is booking into 2022. But that's a lot of folks. And of that 55%, a third of them, 31%, are saying, you know what, we are definitely considering travel insurance because it's really a small price to pay for a lot of peace of mind. And if one thing COVID has taught us is that things change. And that great dream vacation you thought of, that could be in serious jeopardy if there's an outbreak at one of your destinations, an outbreak where you live. So folks are now realizing, I better check that box that I ignored for years when it comes to, do you want to have travel insurance? And now we're advising people to look carefully at that travel insurance. Make sure that there's something on there that says, cancel for any reason. Because before, a lot of travel insurance didn't have a cutout for pandemics because, did anybody really think we'd be living through a pandemic? No, it wasn't to be considered. But because of demand of the customer, more of these travel insurance policies do mention pandemic coverage, but not all of them do. So your best bet is really to try and get a cancel for any reason policy for your vacation, because you have to pay for it, sure. And will you use it? Chances are, hopefully, you won't have to, but it's great peace of mind. Compared to the rest of your vacation, it's peanuts.
Yeah, and how do you go about, is it that when you buy your airline ticket, you check the box, you buy the hotel, go through like a hotels.com or Expedia, you check the box. I mean, where should people look to purchase this?
Well, we at AAA are somewhat selfish in this regard, and we try and tell folks, look, your best bet is using a travel agent because they're experts at this and they will do the research for you. It's like if you have a sore tooth, you don't do your own dentistry, right, Jeffrey? You go to a professional. No. So what we tell people is go to the travel. And if you're a AAA member, it's free, which is the best. You go to a AAA travel agent, you tell them what you want to do, let them do the research, let them figure out the risks, what are the COVID restrictions, and then figure out the best cancel for any reason insurance policy that will cover you on that trip. Let them handle that. That's really the best thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Andrew, I need to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about what you need to know about getting back on the road. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking to Triple A's Andrew Gross this morning. Andrew, thanks so much for staying with us.
Sure thing.
All right, so before we get into what we need to know about some of the laws and getting back on the road, one question I had is, where can we find the latest gas information from AAA?
Well, the best place to go is on your PC at home, your computer, because it actually works better than by mobile. Go to gasprices.aaa.com, and there's an interactive national map. You can click on your state, and it'll tell you what the gas price is in your state, and then you'll see that each county is marked, and it'll give you the average for the county you live in. And if you happen to live in one of the bigger metropolitan areas in that county, you can then search for that and sort of see what gas prices are in your neck of the woods.
Absolutely. All right, Andrew, that covers gas prices. Obviously, you need the go-go juice to go. But let's talk about what else we need to know if we're going to hit the road, either get back carpooling, get back to work, going on vacation. What are some things we need to think about as we get reacclimated to driving in our cars?
Right. There are probably a lot of folks with some somewhat rusty driving skills because maybe they just haven't been hitting the road as often as they did. It's been since 2019, really. So one thing that we always want to stress to folks is remember to move over laws. Every state now has move over laws. And you may say to yourself, well, I know what move over laws is. That means if I'm driving down the highway and there's a police car behind me, I move over. And that's where I say, nope, that is wrong. This is where if you're driving down the highway and there is someone on the side of the road working, it could be a tow truck driver, a police car, ambulance, anything, and they're working on the shoulder, you need to slow yourself down. And when you can, slide over one entire lane to give them a lot of room to work. Just at AAA this summer, we had two of our tow truck drivers who were assisting folks along the road. They were killed by drivers who hit them. And we just want to remind everybody that there are folks who are helping out disabled drivers on the side of the road working, and you've got to give them room to work. And so it's really just slow down and move over.
And not only people who are helping other people in distress, but also you've got construction workers. There's a myriad of things going on the roads each and every day. Yep. Really important to not only protect yourself, make sure you have your hands at 10 and 2, right? I mean, that's what we learned in driver's ed, but also make sure that you are respecting those people on the road, because the last thing you want to do is ruin a vacation or ruin a trip by injuring yourself or injuring other people.
Right. And a lot of the move over laws are addressed at, they just sort of lump everybody in there on the side of the road as emergency workers. And what we try to tell drivers is, look, if you see anything, if there's a car, it could be a brush clearing crew working along the shoulder. If you see anybody on the shoulder, just move over and give them room. And then when you get past them, you can slide back over again. It just makes everybody, the whole situation, so much safer.
Andrew, are you seeing more tickets? How are people penalized if they don't move over? Can they be
You can be
pulled over?
ticketed. Yeah, you could be ticketed. Every state is different how they enforce it. In some states, the penalty is monetarily. Other states, it could be a lot of money. So it just depends. But it's against the law in every state and the District of Columbia not to move over.
Yeah, really important. And Andrew, are you seeing more incidents of not wrecks, but like people damaging collisions, things like that? I mean, you mentioned rusty drivers. Some of us haven't driven since 2019. I mentioned the 10 and 2. But as people get reacclimated, are people still speeding? Are there more accidents? What does that look like?
That's a great question. And perhaps they also picked up some bad habits during the pandemic when they were driving on the roads and there were a lot fewer cars around. So you suddenly have more wide open highways. NHTSA did the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. They looked at data from 2020 and 2021, but the 2020 data, they found that there was an increase of fatalities on highways of 7%. And that's big statistically. And it's already gone up, I think, about 10% the first part of this year alone. So there are a lot of people on the road who have just practicing bad driving behavior. But what is that bad driving behavior and why? That's what we don't know. There really isn't any, what are people doing wrong? We know speeding is a factor, but why are they speeding? There are some dots that still need to be connected, but it's incumbent upon all of us as motorists to focus on the task of driving, try and drive the posted speed limit, because that is really your safest bet. But I'm also aware that, because I've felt it myself when I'm driving on the highway, if there are fewer people around you, the speed can kind of creep up because there's no one around you to kind of gauge your speed. There's sort of the flow of traffic philosophy, and I can only go as fast as the person ahead of me and the person next to me and there's someone behind me. But if all of a sudden those cars are fewer and far between, your speed can kind of creep up. So you have to be aware of that and be like, oh, you know what? I'm going a little too fast. I need to dial it back a bit. Because you're not really going to save a lot of time. I think we once looked at if the speed limit was 70 and you decided to go 75, you would only be shaving about a minute or two off of your trip if you drove for 30 minutes or so. So it's not worth it.
No, it is certainly not worth it. And I'm reminded of the song by Sammy Hagar, "I Can't Drive 55." That was a big hit in the 1980s when I was a kid.
I'm far too young to remember those days, Jeffrey.
Okay,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but I would tell you anecdotally things that I see on the road. We have one car, my wife and I share it, but I've seen people not signaling when they're changing lanes, not signaling when they're turning at a stoplight or a stop sign. These are really important because they not only they communicate what you are going to do as a driver so that you make other people aware.
Right. And cell phone use too. We always want to stress to folks. And we've seen that there's been an increase in better use of the phone in the car over the past few years. Like texting and driving. People are finally beginning to kind of get it that texting is dangerous when you're driving. But a lot of folks think, well, if I'm using hands-free, that's okay too, right? And our studies have shown that, hands-free, while better certainly than holding a phone and texting while you're trying to drive, it still takes the focus away from driving. Your concentration is on the conversation you're having and not on the task of driving. And we've found that it's sometimes after you hang up that call, you hit the button and you hang up, it still takes about 27 seconds for your mind to get off of that call and to get back on the task of driving. And imagine how far you can go in 27 seconds if you're going 65 miles an hour.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
or further if you're driving at a higher rate of speed. I guess
Right.
we got about a minute and a half left, Andrew. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about service, maintenance. Some of us may not have been maintaining our cars at the level that they should, and we may have older cars because we haven't gotten a new car because there are shortages. So what are some of the things we need to think about in terms of getting the oil changed, getting the antifreeze or some of the fluids changed?
Well, I always tell people, if you can't remember the last time you had routine maintenance done on your car, you're due. So just bear that in mind, and always check one of the simplest things is just check your tire pressure, look at the gauge, and if you can't remember the last time you put air in your tires, they're going to be low. So look at the little sticker on the door jamb usually it's on the driver's side. Sometimes it's on the inside door of your the gas door, depending on the make and model of your car. So, it's the little things, keeping your windshield wiper fluid, stuff like that. That really helps your car go a long way. And then you're right. Some of the routine maintenance, the oil changes and things like that. If you can't remember last time you did it, just go ahead and get it done. Good, because that's easy. It's like the travel insurance you and I talked about. That's the easy thing to do. Get yourself covered there, because really, do you really want to be calling AAA when you're stuck on the side of the highway and hoping people move over a lane when they're speeding by you? I mean, you might as well just get it taken care of before you get on the road.
Yeah, I love how you tied it together with the move over laws. Andrew Gross, it is always a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back again very soon, my friend. That wraps up this episode of BRNAM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, so much more, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. We're back again tomorrow for BRN Weekly. We'll have a very special guest, and we'll take a look at some of our best segments for the week. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Waiting here for you to take and drink of. But if you're tired of the same old stuff.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.